Your time today. I know it is your first day back. It's been a long day. So let's get busy and do our work and get ready to go. So I'm very happy you're here. We will probably have folks hopping in the next minute or two, and we'll just admit them to the room and we will get going. So very, very happy to see everybody. Thank you so much. In the chat box, will you please type in something that was important from your holiday break? And I know that some of you there are multiple folks in a room. Feel free to type in a couple of thoughts from several folks. What is something important, good, bad, not so good, that was important from your holiday break? This was a kind of an interesting holiday break for folks across the country. So what was something important? And hi, Jenna. Please type that into the chat box.
What was important?
What was important?
Our kids forgot everything while they were gone. Yeah, that 2 weeks.
She did. Baby.
All right, let's, well, that's pretty fun, Grandma. That's so cool. A new baby. That's so fun. Is it first, second, third, fourth, fifth baby?
It is her first baby and our 9th grandchild.
Oh my gosh, good for you. That's so fun. Congratulations. Well, that's hard to beat, everybody. Jenna and Katrina and folks with Carradine, that's hard to beat. But what was something important? Thanks, Carradine. What was something important about your holiday break? Maybe you sat on the couch and read a book for days. That would be okay.
So in that regard,
All right.
going on my phone and go to Curious.
All right. So I am. All right. Nice job. I'll give it about 2 more minutes. Hard to top that with having a baby, or about 2 more seconds, sorry. All right, here we go. So today, here are the learning targets for today. We are going to make sure that we have a good, solid understanding of how the cycle of assessments work and just confirm that for you. Also, we're going to introduce and strengthen our understanding of a decision-making model to focus your interventions. This decision-making model is put into place 2nd grade and up. K1, we use kind of a different approach. We would look at your individual assessments, but in 2nd grade and up, it's hard to determine what the potential root cause is for the difficulty. So we'll look at that model, and then we'll look at how to use your fluency data along with that decision-making model to guide your work. So this is the cycle. I'm guessing this feels very familiar to you when you look at this. This is the cycle of analysis that is at hand. So in the fall, in the winter, and the spring, we analyze our universal screening data. We analyze our iStation data, or our ISIP data. You also, some of you may be using a universal screener like DIBELS 8. You may be using a screener like Ames Web Plus, ETCBM, STAR CBM. You may be using MAP, Measure of Academic Progress. Those are also universal screeners. And I know some of you may have those supplementing your ISIP data. So fall, winter, spring, we analyze that data. My guess is you are just getting ready to give your winter universal screening assessment. Will you type into the chat box really quickly? When are you going to give the universal screening assessment for the winter? Maybe some folks give it before they leave for Christmas, but I'm guessing that most of you in Idaho are going to give it sometime this month. Will you just type into the chat box, when will you be giving your IRI and your universal screening assessment? Oh, you did it before break. Okay, good. So you already have your data. Excellent. Yeah. Okay. Thanks so much. Appreciate that. So this fall, winter, spring, we do the universal screening data. And then in between there, we give our progress monitoring data, progress monitoring assessment for students who are receiving intervention. And that's usually every 2 or 3 weeks for students who are struggling. And the guideline is if students are receiving intervention, we progress monitor. If students are progress monitored, then that would indicate that they are receiving intervention. Because the progress monitoring is really just meant to tell us, is this progress monitor or this intervention having an impact? Is it doing what we want it to do? Yeah, great. Thanks, Katrina. Monthly progress monitoring. Good. ISIP and oral reading fluency. Beautiful. Katrina, do you do that with every child or students who are receiving intervention or who may be in the yellow?
Intervention every 2 weeks, right?
We do,
Yeah.
yeah. We do intervention every 2 weeks. We do the ISIP K through 3 all year long, every month. And we do oral reading fluency once a month for every student. And then the Title I coordinator does quarterly Title I reports and does those tests as
Core
well.
battery.
The core battery
Oh,
quarterly.
yeah. Yeah, for diagnostic. Good for you. Well, that's awesome. I love it. Thank you for sharing, you two. You actually really talked about the cycle here. Fall, winter, spring, you give your IRI, your ISIP work. Then every month, your progress monitoring with ISIP and with oral reading fluency. And then you're giving the full battery of the core, or the core, probably core phonics survey, to see what is the exact issue and where should we target that intervention. Beautiful job. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Really nice work. All right, I want us to hop down. I'm guessing that I'm going to skip this next slide in just a minute. I'm guessing, just from working with you for the last few months, that this cycle is well established in your school, and that your rhythm and your pattern, this has a rhythm and a hum to it. So as you are implementing this assessment system within the cycle, there's kind of a pattern and a rhythm and a hum. And then you have all of the data at your fingertips to do the things you need to do. So great job. Appreciate that. All right. I want to hop to this model because I think here's where we will spend a good amount of our time today, and then we'll go to the next activity as well. So this is in the Padlet for you in case you want it. Oh, let me move this out of the way a little bit so you can see. So this is a decision-making model for grades 2 and up, because we're all elementary. On this model is 2 through 5, but really you would use this kind of a decision-making model for students in grades 2 and up. So we start with the top middle box, and that top middle box, we start with our comprehension assessments. That's how we think about it, 2nd grade and up, in terms of where we begin. Our ISAT, our iStation, our unit tests, we look at our comprehension scores, because that is the ultimate goal in reading. Now let's hop to the left. If the student is proficient in their comprehension assessments, number 1, have a party and celebrate and teach, right? So if they are showing proficiency on their comprehension assessments, hooray, and teach. If they are not showing proficiency on those comprehension assessments, we drop down, which I really loved your sharing, Katrina and team. You drop down then to your fluency data. Because if a student is not proficient on their comprehension assessments, we know they're not actually a proficient reader, but we're not totally sure why. What is causing the trouble? So the first layer we move down to is fluency. So we look at their oral reading fluency data, and It's good to have a standardized measure if you can, something like Dibbles 8 or Ames Web Plus or Easy CVM or Star CVM. It's good to have a standardized measure if you can. If you can't, it's good to be able to use a measure that might be normed, 6-minute solution, read naturally. And then if you don't have those, it's okay to use your program fluency assessments. The important thing to know is that those are not normed. And so when you look at that data, it's hard to know if that data is super accurate, but it's okay to use your program fluency assessments if you need to. So will you just type into the chat box for a minute? The first thing is, do you have an oral reading fluency assessment that you could access for students? And is it a standardized measure, or is it a measure of passages that you draw from maybe in your program, or a set of passages that you have? So will you take a second and type into the chat box, what kinds of fluency assessments do you have access to? Ames Web, great. Thanks, Katrina. That's great. Easy CBM, you'll also have access to HMH, good. And Ames Web, oh, nice, beautiful job. All right, so you have all kinds of fluency data that you just shared. Thank you so much, great job. All right, so let's hop down to that second box. It's the second white box, which is your fluency assessment. We have some thinking we need to do. The first thing is the student accurate? And the number, if you're taking notes today, for second grade and up, the accuracy percent is 96 to 97%. 4 different sets of researchers have taken a look at what's the accuracy threshold that supports fluency, which supports comprehension. 4 of them came up with the exact same range, which was 96 to 97%, second grade and up forevermore. If a student has low accuracy, less than 97%, we would want to do what we call the quadrant analysis, and we'll do that in just a minute. Or if they have low fluency, maybe their accuracy is really high, but their fluency is not meeting the target. Either one of those, if accuracy or fluency data is low, we use that data in a quadrant analysis to figure out what exactly is giving kids trouble and how do we design that work. Then we decide, then let's go down to the last white box. If, excuse me, if their fluency is low, then we design a fluency intervention if their accuracy is high. If their accuracy is low, we design a decoding intervention. So this is really just the thinking or the process that we use, starting at comprehension, and we sort on track, not on track for comprehension. The next thing we sort is fluency, on track accuracy, on track for fluency. So this is just a model for you to be thinking about. And now I want to actually move to the quadrant, because here is where things make a lot of sense for people. So in this quadrant, and you may have seen this before, and if you have, that is fantastic. This quadrant is put into 4 quadrants through accuracy and fluency. So this is actually, excuse me, an easy CBM quadrant. So it's called passage reading fluency. But if you have oral reading fluency, it is the same. So the target for this for fluency, the target here is 74 words correct per minute. These are 3rd grade kids, and it is 74 words correct per minute, just so you have a sense. So let's go up to the top left quadrant. The top left quadrant, all of these students were below 74 words correct per minute. All of them were below the target for fluency. Now let's look to the right column for accuracy. All of these students were at or above 96% fluency or accuracy, sorry. So that means when they come to a passage and they are reading the words correctly, they are just slow. So for our intervention purposes, this group of students right here in quadrant 1 are the only group of students who would benefit from a fluency intervention. 6-minute solution, read naturally, repeated readings, partner readings. They are the only group that actually would respond to a fluency intervention. And they're telling you through your data, every time I read a word, the chances of me being accurate are very high, but I'm slow. And that slow fluency rate will eventually cause comprehension difficulties. So that group of students in the top box, what their intervention should be, would include a hefty amount of fluency practice in their intervention time. And there are both yellow kids and red kids in that box. Now let's hop over to quadrant 2. Quadrant 2 is when they have strong rate and high accuracy. So I want to go back to the decision-making model for a minute, because we'd actually, let me go back here for a second. So if they have, so their comprehension scores are not good. We go down and we check their fluency and accuracy. If they have high rate and high accuracy, so now we're on the right-hand side of the model. If they have high rate and high accuracy, we go up and we provide comprehension and vocabulary instruction for their intervention. This is the group of kids in the top right who need comprehension and vocabulary support. Their decoding and their fluency is strong. That's not the underlying issue for them. The underlying issue is comprehension and vocabulary. So that group of students, when we tailor their intervention, we know that that's the group for comp and vocab. Now let's go down to quadrant 4. I know it's not in order, but let's go down to quadrant 4 for a minute. These students met the target for fluency. They were 75 words correct and above, and they were a little bit low in their accuracy. So there are a couple of things we think about with this. The first thing we do is prompt them to slow down. They may have a misunderstanding of what the goal is, and they think the goal is to read fast, and they are actually skipping words or not attending to each word. So the first thing is prompt them to slow down. The next thing we look at with this group of kids is how are they doing with multisyllabic work? In their accuracy or in their errors, is it mostly multisyllabic work, or are there a couple of patterns that we could shore up for this group of students in small group? They probably wouldn't need a full-on intervention, but in my small group instruction, would multisyllabic instruction help them? Prefix, suffix, base work, root work, would some vowel combination patterns? Are there a few pieces? This is where your core data might come in as well, give this group of kids the core assessment. What is it that's giving them trouble with their accuracy? So first, prompt to slow down, and then second, look and see multisyllabic, maybe some particular patterns. Now let's go to the kids on the bottom left. This is your group of kids. They are slow and they are inaccurate. So this is the group of kids that comes forward to you all the time, right? Here's the interesting thing. Look at this quadrant. They have yellow and red kids in this quadrant. This is not, when you do this analysis, it is not just students who come up in the red. So there are 3 students in this class who are slow and they are not accurate enough to support their comprehension. This is the group of kids where you might want to give an informal diagnostic. You might want to give the core phonics survey. You may have a phonics diagnostic with HMH. You may have a phonics screener or phonics diagnostic from some other tool. This group of kids is where we would give that diagnostic and say, what is it? Is it R controlled? Is it vowel combinations? Is it single letters? What is it that's giving this group of kids trouble so that we can target that decoding work in their intervention? So this is kind of how we look at that fluency data. This is the quadrant that helps us know this group of kids needs fluency. This group of kids needs vocab and calm. This group of kids, we're going to prompt them to slow down, but then take a look, is it multisyllabic work? This group of kids needs a bigger diagnostic so we can take a look and see where they really are in terms of support. So before I go to, and we're going to practice, will you just type into the chat box something that was maybe confirmed for you on how you might use your fluency data this way, or what might be new for you in terms of how you use that fluency data? So please type in the chat box. Thank you so much for those of you participating. I appreciate it. Please type into the chat box what might be new or confirmed in terms of how we would use this decision-making model and the quadrant to look at your fluency data. Yeah, that's right, Katrina. They don't all need the fluency data. Ah, great. That they don't all need the same intervention. That's right. And sometimes when you just look at the fluency numbers or the accuracy, it's hard to know what they would need for that intervention. Great. Ah, great. So Carradine's team, you're on track with using your data. Have you done this before? Yeah, okay. Awesome. That's fantastic. Excellent job. All right. So let's practice for a minute. This group of students right here, if you've done this before, you'll be really quick with it. There are a couple of kids that could go either way. There's not a hard and fast rule here. So will you just take a second? Let me go back here. Will you quadrant for yourself? And then we will place these kids really quickly. All right, about 10 more seconds. All righty. So now, remembering that the target for accuracy is 96 to 97%. And in this assessment, you can see under words correct that the goal, the target for fluency is 73%, or sorry, 73 words correct per minute. So will you just take a minute and place these students really quickly into the 4 quadrants? And it's not an exact science, so it's okay if we have a couple of different answers for kids, no problem at all. I'll give you about 3 minutes. set my timer. Got one more minute. We'll see how we did. All right, about 15 seconds. All right, I could draw you forward. So laying down the premise that all of these students were struggling on their comprehension measure, their ISAT, their unit assessments, their iStation data, they are all showing gaps in comprehension. So we're looking to see with the students who are in this group, what kind of intervention do they need? What is potentially giving them trouble so we can intervene correctly? So let's see how we did. So this was how I placed them. Oh, let's see. I don't know why that T keeps falling off of there. This was how I placed them. You may have some differences in how you place them, and that is absolutely okay. You notice that with Philip, I said in the top left that he would need some fluency practice, but I also think because of his data, so Philip he was 93%. And was very close to the fluency target. So in his accuracy, I would think he would need fluency work and maybe some multisyllabic, but I could put him in a couple different places. So can you please find 3 kids on the chart and type in their names where you had them in the same place that I did? Just 3 kids, you don't need to do them all. 3 children that you had in the same place that I did. Luis, Addie, and Frankie. Great. Let's see if anybody else had others that were in the same place as mine. Adon, Alan, and Frankie. Great. Now, were there any that were not in the same place that I placed them? And it's not hard and fast. So as you are thinking about this, knowing the children, that also plays here. We use the data first and then we think about the child. So Philip, so you had Philip in a different place. Carradine's group, where did you have Philip? I'm guessing where you had him. Joaquim and Nadia, let's see, where's Joaquim? Joaquim, yes, and Nadia. So Katrina, will you type in, thanks Carradine, bottom left, all right. And you had Joaquim and Nadia up in one, Katrina's team, let's see. Joaquim, let's look at him. Oh yeah, down in both, okay. Put them in quadrant one, excellent. And then Nadia. So let me see if I had them in the same one. Yeah, all right, excellent. So I had them, so when if I were, and I should have labeled this quadrant, then quadrant number one is up at the top. Those students need fluency. They have low fluency, high accuracy. The kids in the top right did well with fluency and accuracy. They need comprehension. The kids in the bottom left, those were kids who were low in both areas of fluency and accuracy. They need foundational skills, decoding, and potentially a diagnostic. And then the kids in the right are kids we would prompt to slow down and maybe some multisyllabic work. Excellent job. All right, thank you so much for responding. So now, I think we won't do this in a breakout room. Let me just double check something with you. Katrina, do you have a couple of you there in the room?
We do. We have our entire district. We have teachers, our principal, our superintendent, and paras.
Yes, that's awesome. I definitely won't put you in a breakout group then. And I'm not sure if Jenna, if you're by yourself or if you have folks with you as well. Do you have folks with you, Jenna?
No, I'm by myself.
Just by you. Okay. So how about this, since there are two groups, and then you, how about if you do your own reflection and then maybe type that into the chat box, that would be really great. And then the two groups can talk together. Let me see here in the chat box. You're together too. Great. All right. So here's what I'd like to do as our close for today. Our goal was really to show you a way to look at your fluency, accuracy data, look at that decision-making model so that you can be efficient with that comprehension data and analyzing it when you get it pretty soon if you haven't already. So those were our goals for today. So we're going to take about 4 minutes. And for those of you who are in a group, will you talk about what might be something that you will either continue to do or some work that you might add into what you're already doing with using your data, in particular fall, winter, spring. So two groups, you talk together. And Jenna, if you'll just take a second and reflect, and then type in the chat box with me, that would be, just type me a note, that would be fantastic. All right, 4 minutes, I'm setting my timer and go. About 30 more seconds. All righty, great. Can I pull you back together? Hopefully, hopefully you have had a chance to have a little bit of a conversation. I know that the two groups who are working together in groups, I know you do really nice work with your data. So hopefully this is just a reminder or a refresher on how to think about that. Will you take a moment and yeah, that's right, Katrina, I love that comment. We need to communicate more with 4th and 5th grades to help offer some more supports. The things that we did today are often 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers are like, I don't know exactly where to tailor my intervention or my small group support. I don't know how to use this data. I know they're not passing iStation or ISAT. I know they're not doing well with comp and iStation. They're not doing well on their unit test for comprehension, but I don't know what to do. So that's actually what this model was built for. And we can use it in 2nd grade as well, but really it's 3rd grade and up because that quadrant helps teachers so much. This group of kids needs a fluency intervention once you've done the quadrant. They're very clear, they're accurate, but they're not fluent. This group of kids needs fluency practice. This group of kids over here needs comprehension and support. They're not doing well with comp, but they do need support for comp and vocab. This group of kids prompt. This group of kids right here is where we have heads in, tails up because their accuracy and their fluency is low. Yeah, I like that comment about 4th and 5th grade to provide some support. That's excellent. And then I'm going to go up for a second because I think that also Caradine said we need to teach the other teachers the decision-making model. Yeah, I think that data analysis can be really cumbersome. And sometimes we start small and then we get mired in the weeds. This model is designed to help us sift very quickly. Left, right, comprehension, great, not great. That's our first sift. Fluency, accuracy, fluent and accurate. So that's the next sort. And then based on that, we can then design that intervention quickly. So a lot of times when data analysis comes about, we get really, we go to the details first. And then the other thing I think I would say to everyone is noticing how on this chart, there were students in the yellow and the red in both quadrant 1 and quadrant 3. Just because, let's go up to quadrant 1 for a minute. Just because kids are in the red in quadrant 1 up at the top, just because they're in the red doesn't mean they would need a decoding intervention. They might, or some decoding support within their intervention. They might. But what they're also saying through their data is I need practice and fluency practice. I need to be reading decodable text, and I need regular fluency practice in text that I am successful in, because when I'm really accurate, I'm slow. So hopefully that helps. And then you look in the bottom left quadrant, there are students who are in the yellow there. So just looking at kids in red, yellow, green, we actually miss a few kids in terms of tailoring that support for them. So even though the students were in the yellow, Edward, Dejay, and Chris on this bottom left, their data, when you sort by accuracy and fluency, their data is telling you, I'm not accurate enough and I'm not quick enough. I probably have an underlying decoding issue, even though I'm yellow. If my trend continues, I won't stay yellow, I will be dropping into red. So hopefully this decision-making model and the data quadrant analysis was a bit helpful for you today. As promised, I wanted to make sure to really honor your time and be as quick as we can today. For some of you, this was a refresher, and for others of you, you're like, I think we'll take a look at that. On the Padlet, for the collaborative calls, for the readiness calls on the Padlet, are all of those materials that we just went through. There is a quadrant there. There also is a follow-up page to that quadrant that tells you all the things in each of the quadrants that I said about fluency practice and about comprehension. So it writes up everything that I have said today. And a lot of times folks find that helpful. And then there's the decision-making model chart in there for you as well if you want to use it. And the PowerPoint, feel free to use anything you want to in the PowerPoint. So if you will take a minute and do your attendance check-in, that would be fantastic. I really appreciate your work today. The first day back at school. When I saw that on the schedule today, I thought,